Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we're going to take a look at the other Savage Strike figure of the Wave 2 Dino Rivals, and as you can see, it is the Dimetrodon. I recently came across these while I was on vacation, so they're pretty new. They're just recently starting to come out and they were a little hard to find, but I think they should start to become a little more abundant over time. I was really excited to be able to finally get a hold of these guys though, after months of looking at images of them coming out and not actually getting them in my hands until now. I was beyond excited when I did finally find them. As you can see, the box itself is the typical Savage Strike box. You've got the image on the back there of the Dimetrodon, some images down here of the other Savage Strike figures that are currently out, and a little shot there of the card. But without further ado, let's break it out of the box. So here is the card for the Dino Rivals Dimetrodon. I actually really like the image there of the Dimetrodon. I think it looks super cool. Actually, maybe even a little more cooler than the actual figure itself. You've got some stats down there and the typical Dino Rivals Jurassic World stuff on the back. Very cool card, as always. And then the Dimetrodon itself, very cool looking. Honestly, right away at first glance, I can say I don't like it quite as much as I liked the older Kenner ones. I think the older Kenner ones were much more realistic looking, closer looking to what an actual Dimetrodon would probably look like. But regardless, this is still a pretty darn cool looking Dimetrodon, and I'm really excited to have one in general from the Mattel line. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. Starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see that the head sculpt does have some fairly nice detail. Some nice sculpt work, lots of very minute, small sculpt work that's been put into it. I like the sculpt all around the eye. Sports some very nice detail if my camera would focus on it. There we go, a little bit. The eye is painted pretty nicely, nice and yellow. Has the blue spot there, which is basically the same coloration as the rest of the body for the pupil, but I think it looks pretty good actually. And the paint has a nice gloss to it. There's no sloppiness to either eye, so that's 2 for 2 as far as these new Savage Strike figures go. When it comes to the eye paint, that's a definite plus. The teeth look pretty good. They're a little bit sloppily painted, but not terrible. You can see he's got like a missing tooth, or maybe just a small tooth right there, but they still put the white paint on the gum regardless. The inside of the mouth is like a purplish coloration. The tongue, it's hard to see, but it looks nice. It's got a nice gloss to it, some pretty nice detail on it as well. Nothing major, but it serves its purpose. The teeth on the lower jaw look pretty good, but again, a little bit of sloppiness as far as the paint goes, but it's nothing concerning or terrible. It still looks pretty good. As we start to come back the neck, you can see some very nice, very lizard-like scaling going on. And you can see a little bit of skin folds and stuff, some hanging skin here in the throat area. That looks pretty good. I really like the scale actually. The scale work looks really cool. It almost reminds me of a snake, or like I said, a lizard, so it really looks probably what it would look like on a Dimetrodon back in the day. You can see that the sculpting is overall very muscular looking. He has a very large amount of muscle tone all throughout the body, really. It's just very muscular. Even down here when you come down onto the legs, the beautiful, very lizard-like scaling continues, but the legs are very muscular looking. They have some very nice muscle tone, and I think that looks pretty good. The nails look good, and the feet themselves do as well. There's no paint on the nails, of course. You can see the body is primarily like a grayish blue, and it's of course got these little speckles and dots that Mattel loves to throw on their figures throughout. As you get to the upper back, it's almost like a light brown, or maybe like a khaki type of a color that gets closer to the sail. That looks pretty good. I like that there is some difference in coloration as far as the tones go. That's definitely a plus. You can take note of the rib cage here of the animal, and that beautiful scaling continues. Some skin folding here in the stomach region. Then we get back here, very nice musculature in the rear leg right there. Beautiful sculpting as far as the way the foot is positioned and the way the body is reacting to it with the skin folding and everything. Looks very nice. Then we come back here into the tail. You can kind of see some smaller sails sticking up on the tail. I don't know that Dimetrodon actually had those, but it still looks pretty cool. See a little skin folding here on the side of the tail as well. And those beautiful scales run the entire length of the tail all the way out to a very nice curve. The sail itself sports some very nice sculpt and detail, and I love that there is like this yellow splotchiness to the red area of the sail. I think that actually makes it look very striking. and really cool looking. Definitely pulls your attention straight into the sail area, and that was definitely a very nice touch on the part of Mattel. Overall, I think that the sail looks really beautiful. And then looking at the opposing side, it's as usual pretty much the same as the previous side. Very nice skin folding and stuff here in the neck. You can see all sorts of movement of the skin with the way that the animal is moving. Come down, nice musculature once again in this leg. There's the rib cage present once again. You can again take note of the very muscular look of the body and those beautiful scales that run the entire length of the body. These rear legs once again are a little bit squished down as it's kind of rearing up, I guess, a little bit, kind of in the front it seems. And beautiful scale work, those small sails on the back which are not painted at all. Just the sail here is, and it actually looks really nice. Once again, like I said, that beautiful splotchiness of the yellow really makes it look so striking, and I really like the paint scheme of this. The underside has a greenish type of a coloration, which only runs down into the area right before the tail, and then it ends pretty much abruptly. But I think it looks pretty good as well. And there is the Jurassic Facts code if you do want to add this to your collection. As far as articulation goes on the Dimetrodon itself, you can see that to do the Savage Strike action, you have to push the tail over, which causes the mouth to open and close. Well, I guess it stays open, causes the mouth to close. There is articulation in the legs as they do move forward and back, and they also move away from the body a little bit. It's kind of weird the way it does it. I guess you could lay him down on his stomach if you wanted, so he's kind of relaxing or sleeping. But the legs do move away from the body, and you can push them down. It's just a little stiff. It's really quite stiff. I haven't really moved it around previously. But the legs, of course, in the back move forward and back, but they don't move out away from the body. And the tail does have the articulation, as I said, to make the jaw go. It's just left and right. Doesn't go up and down. The tail is a little flexible at the end, but that's really if you just want to bend the tail. The sail also is a little bit flexible, but again, you may actually end up breaking the sail if you do flex it that way. I don't think that would happen, but I'm not really sure, and I don't intend to find out. As far as the size goes on the Dimetrodon, from the head to the tail, you are looking at about 6 and almost 6 3/4 inches. If the tail was stretched out pretty far, it would be a little bit longer, or about 17 centimeters. And for a height would be the middle of the sail. You're looking at about 3.5 inches or about 9 centimeters. For a size comparison, just like I did with the Tapejara, here is the Destructosaurus Velociraptor. And you can see that they size pretty well against each other, about similar size. Definitely somewhere in that same size range, as the battle damage figures were overtaken by the Savage Strike figures, so they should be right around in the same size range, as that does make sense. And then there is the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which you can see is just completely overshadowing that small Dimetrodon. Once again, he's much larger, but should give you a pretty good idea that these are similar in size to the smaller battle damage figures that we had gotten previously, and this Rex is just enormous compared to the Dimetrodon. So once again, another very cool Jurassic World figure. This one is definitely probably my least favorite out of all of these Savage Strike figures, but it's not a bad figure at all by any means. It's still really nice looking, and overall has a beautiful appearance as far as that sail goes. The paint applied looks pretty good, and it's very natural looking. There isn't too much as far as paint goes. It's not like the Tapejara where it had a significant amount of paint application, but it does look good what it does have. It's very plain, but it's kind of what you would expect on something like this, and I think it's applied very naturally and very nicely. The eyes are painted really nicely, which is a definite plus, as Mattel has had quite a few problems keeping the eye paint in the correct place. That has not been an issue with either of these new Savage Strike figures that they just recently released, or at least not the two that I have. The sculpt work itself looks very good. I love that scaling that's very similar to a lizard, kind of what you would expect to see on a Dimetrodon. The small, minute sculpt work looks very good as well, like adding in the rib cage and everything. It's a very muscular looking Dimetrodon, and overall, pretty darn appealing looking Dimetrodon. Once again, Kenner without question beats Mattel in this as far as how nice the Dimetrodon looks, at least in my opinion. Again, this is just my opinion. You may not share that same opinion, but this one is still pretty cool regardless, and definitely worth picking up. If you do want to buy it, you're probably just going to have to keep checking your local Walmarts until they do start to stock them if they haven't already. Otherwise, I will throw in a link to Amazon where they were for sale recently, but I will say that they're probably a good bit more expensive than you're going to pay if you find them in store. I paid about $10 each for these guys, and you're probably going to pay a heck of a lot more than that on Amazon. But I will throw the links in the description for you regardless if you can't locate them in store and Amazon is your only hope. So check the descriptions or check your local Walmart. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.